Peter Obi, Kwankwaso, Seriake Dixon, Buba Galadima. All of them just moved to the same political house, the NDC. But there's one major name missing from that list. And now, Galadima is on national television saying very clearly that if that man doesn't follow them in, he will be held personally responsible for the collapse of the opposition ahead of 2027. That man is Atiku Abubakar. And here's where it gets interesting. Atiku's own team has already come out to deny any such plans to join the NDC. So now we have a public ultimatum on one side and a flat denial on the other. So the question you need answered before this video ends is this: is Atiku being cornered, or is he the one quietly holding all the cards? Stay with me, because what's happening right now in Nigerian politics is bigger than most people realize. Before we go deeper, if you're just finding Naijanewsfeed, welcome. This channel exists to break down what's really happening in Nigerian politics without the noise and without the spin. The only way you can help me keep doing this work is to hit that subscribe button right now and turn on the notification bell. That's genuinely the biggest support you can give this channel. Now let's get into it. Let's establish exactly what happened and why it matters right now. On Sunday, May 4th, 2026, two of Nigeria's most prominent opposition figures, former Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi and former NNPP candidate Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, officially left the African Democratic Congress, the ADC, and joined a new political platform called the Nigeria Democratic Congress, the NDC, a party founded by former Bayelsa State Governor Seriake Dixon. The pair formalized the move at Dixon's residence, where they signed documents with NDC leadership. The political world was watching. Then, on Monday, May 5th, Buba Galadima, a veteran politician, a former close ally of Atiku himself, and now a prominent figure in the NDC, appeared on Channels Television's Politics Today and issued what can only be described as a public ultimatum. He said, and I'm paraphrasing very carefully to be accurate, "We are calling on Atiku Abubakar to follow us as we followed him into the ADC. If he refuses to do that, he has now scuttled the unity of the opposition to unseat this government. And if he stays in the ADC, he has agreed to forfeit his right to contest in 2027. That is not mild political language. That is a direct, calculated statement delivered on national television. But why is this happening now? Two reasons. First, the ADC is in serious legal trouble. A federal high court judgment placed a perpetual injunction preventing the party from organizing any state congresses, conventions, or primaries. Without those, no presidential ticket can be produced. Second, the NDC has just attracted the biggest opposition names in the country. The momentum has clearly shifted, and the message to Atiku is, the train is leaving the station. Are you on it or not? But here's the part most people are skipping over, the legal trap that actually triggered all of this. Because once you understand the court angle, everything else makes sense. Let me break down the legal and institutional picture, because this is the real engine driving everything. The ADC's crisis did not start this week. It has been building for months, centered on a bitter dispute over who legitimately leads the party. Two factions, the David Mark-led faction, which includes Atiku and Aregesbola, and a rival faction led by Nafiu Bala. On April 30th, 2026, Nigeria's Supreme Court, in a 5-member panel led by Justice Mohammed Lawal Garba, delivered a ruling in this dispute. But here's the crucial detail that most headlines missed. The Supreme Court did not declare a final winner. It set aside a Court of Appeal order that had maintained the status quo and directed all parties back to the trial court. INC, in response, recognized David Mark as ADC national chairman on its portal.
Atiku welcomed it. He posted on X saying the road ahead is still long and urged supporters not to be complacent. The party celebrated it as a victory. But the celebration has limits, serious ones. A separate federal high court judgment had already placed a perpetual injunction on the NDC, restraining it from organizing any state congresses, conventions, or national convention. That injunction still stands. What that means practically is this: David Mark is recognized as chairman, but the party cannot legally produce candidates, no primaries, no presidential ticket, until that injunction is successfully appealed all the way up to the Supreme Court. And now the clock is ticking. INC's deadline for parties to submit their membership registers is May 10th, 2026, just days away. Parties must upload presidential and National Assembly candidates to INC portal by July 11th, 2026. That is a brutally tight window to win a Supreme Court appeal and conduct a clean primary. This is the legal minefield Atiku is standing in, and Galadima is standing outside the gate saying, "Come over here, the ground is clear."
Now, we get to the real chess game. This is the section that will change how you see everything. Who benefits from Galadima's statement? The NDC, clearly. Every time a prominent figure calls on Atiku to join, it amplifies the NDC's relevance. The party has Peter Obi, who commands enormous goodwill among young Nigerians and the Southeast. It has Kwankwaso, who controls a formidable political machine in Kano and the Northwest. And it has Seriake Dickson, anchoring the South-South. Now, Galadima, who is from the North, is the one making the pitch to Atiku, who has his base in the Northeast and across PDP strongholds in the North generally. That is deliberate. The NDC is building a story. We are a national party, not a regional one. And every endorsement from a northern figure helps that narrative. But here is the tension nobody is fully addressing. Galadima himself confirmed something explosive in the same interview, that the NDC has zoned its presidential ticket to the south. That means Peter Obi, not Atiku, would be the presidential flag bearer if Atiku joined the NDC. So what exactly is Galadima offering Atiku? The opportunity to join a coalition where he cannot be the presidential flag bearer. That is not an invitation to power, that is an invitation to be a powerful supporter of someone else's campaign. This is the part Atiku's camp understands very well. And it explains why his media advisor, Paul Aibe, responded promptly saying, and this is a direct quote, "If that is the case, I will be the first to know. I don't think that there's anything like that." Galadima himself once said publicly that the opposition leaders were lured into the ADC to serve Atiku's presidential ambition, not for genuine coalition unity. Now he is the one saying Atiku must join a party where Atiku cannot be president. That is a complete reversal, and it tells you a great deal about how much has shifted. The silent players. Keep your eye on Seriake Dickson. He is the founder and national leader of the NDC. He is largely quiet while Galadima does the public talking. That is strategic. He is letting the NDC be seen as a Peter Obi Kwankwaso Galadima project, rather than a Dickson project. It makes the party look bigger and broader. Also watch Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State. He has been mentioned in discussions around possible Atiku alliances. If Makinde stays with Atiku in whatever platform Atiku chooses, that brings a key Southwest governor into play, and that changes the entire electoral map. What about the APC? Do not underestimate the extent to which the APC benefits from oppositional fragmentation. Every time the opposition splits into another party, PDP, Labour Party, NNPP, ADC, now NDC, the APC's path to victory in 2027 gets wider. A divided opposition has handed Nigerian incumbents election after election. Galadima himself pointed this out when he warned that the government may have used legal channels to weaken opposition platforms. Whether or not that is provable, the pattern, multiple opposition parties, no single candidate, is real.
Now, there's one more question this whole situation raises. What does this mean for the ADC itself and for Atiku's realistic chances of actually getting on the 2027 ballot? I'll come back to that before we close. Now, if what I just broke down surprises you, drop a comment below. I genuinely want to know, do you think Atiku should join the NDC, or is he right to hold his ground? Comment before we get to the section that changes the whole picture. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. It costs you nothing, and it is literally the only way to help this channel grow and keep bringing you this kind of breakdown. Let's zoom out. What does all of this mean for Nigeria as a country? First, the 2027 threat to Tinubu. If the NDC succeeds in uniting Peter Obi, Kwankwaso, and eventually other opposition figures under one ticket, they represent the most credible challenge to President Tinubu since his election. The Obi-Kwankwaso combination alone, even without Atiku, speaks to a broad coalition: Southeast Christians, Northwest Muslims, youth voters, and disaffected PDP members. That is a significant constituency. Second, what happens if Atiku stays in a broken ADC? The Federal High Court injunction means the ADC cannot produce candidates unless it wins on appeal by July. If Atiku remains there and the legal appeal fails, he may find himself without a platform to contest in 2027, despite being the most experienced presidential candidate in Nigeria's recent history. That would be a remarkable political outcome for a man who has been chasing the presidency since 2003. Third, Northern Bloc fragmentation. Atiku is the Northeast's strongest presidential voice. Kwankwaso holds the Northwest. If they end up on the same NDC platform, there will need to be very careful ticket balancing. If they stay on different platforms, the Northern vote, which has historically been decisive, splits in multiple directions, potentially handing the Southwest coalition behind Tinubu a smoother path. This situation is actually the mirror image of 2015, when the APC pulled off the impossible, merging the ACN, CPC, ANPP, and a faction of the PDP into one platform to unseat a sitting president. The NDC is attempting the same playbook from the opposition side. The question is whether the egos involved will allow the same kind of unity.
Let me address what some people are getting wrong about this story. Misconception 1. The NDC is now automatically the strongest opposition party. Not yet. Having big names joined does not automatically mean a party is organized, funded, and ready to run a national campaign. The NDC still needs to submit its membership register by May 10th, and Galadima confirmed they would do so on May 5th or 6th. The party structures at state and local government level are still largely untested. Having Obi and Kwankwaso is a headline. Turning that into actual votes requires a machine that takes years to build. Misconception 2. Galadima's statement means Atiku is already on his way out of the ADC. Atiku's camp has flatly denied this, and Atiku himself, after the Supreme Court ruling, doubled down on his commitment to the ADC, calling it our great party. As of today, there is no evidence of defection talks involving Atiku. Misconception 3. The ADC is finished. The ADC still has David Mark, Rauf Aregbesola, and a Supreme Court-recognized structure. If the party successfully appeals the Federal High Court injunction in time, a long shot but not impossible, it could still conduct primaries and field a presidential candidate. Don't write it off completely yet. The strongest argument from Atiku's side. Why would Atiku join a party where the presidential ticket has already been zoned away from him? He has been the PDP's presidential candidate twice, came second in 2023, and his entire political brand is built on one thing. He believes he is the right man to be Nigeria's president. Joining the NDC under current terms would be admitting that chapter is closed. That is a very hard thing to ask of a man who has spent over 20 years pursuing that singular goal. What should you watch for from here? Watch the May 10th deadline.
This is INEC's cutoff for party membership register submissions. Whether the NDC submits cleanly and whether the ADC manages to submit at all will tell us a great deal about which platform has real organizational capacity. Watch Atiku's next public statement. If Atiku continues to double down on the ADC and stays silent about the NDC, he is betting on that legal appeal succeeding. If he begins to soften his language or signals openness to broader unity discussions, read that as movement towards a potential platform change. Watch whether Makinde and the Southwest PDP figures follow Obi and Kwankwaso into the NDC. If they do, the NDC begins to look like a genuine national coalition. If they don't, it remains primarily a Southeast and Northwest arrangement. Best case scenario: Atiku joins the NDC, accepts a senior role short of the presidential ticket, and Nigeria gets a genuinely united opposition going into 2027 with real electoral competitiveness. Worst case scenario: Atiku stays in a legally paralyzed ADC, the NDC runs its own candidate, the PDP splinters further, and Tinubu faces a fractured opposition, the same story that has benefited incumbents in Nigeria again and again. So, can Atiku actually get on the 2027 ballot if he stays in the ADC? The honest answer is, it is genuinely uncertain. The timeline for winning a Supreme Court appeal, then conducting clean primaries, then submitting candidates to INEC by July 11th, all of that is possible but extremely tight. The NDC option is cleaner, but the price of that clarity is giving up the presidential ambition he has carried for 2 decades. Here's the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to say out loud.